All right, so we have here VEX over here on the blue team. We've been with them since the last game, actually, and we saw them pull off a very, very strong dive comp, and they are here to face off against their challenger, CTG.
Hmm. So, don't know too much about the history of those two teams, but they do certainly look very, very solid. Both of them are, in fact, I believe, challenger teams in the 5v5 bracket. So, very, very solid teams all across the board there.
Give me one second.
Racketack.
I'm doing my adminning duty as well. We have a third place against fourth place matchup. One person not showing up, and but yeah, it's interesting to see GZ's Pooty Spank. He used to play over on Excessive Talent Obsidian, but has now moved on to his new team, CTG, and I'm interested to see him play just because he is the player that I am most familiar with. We have a Jarvan being locked in. It worked very, very well over here on Porpoisescoop in that last game, and he might be able to just grab those early advantages, especially in the mid lane that we saw just that last game.
Indeed. So, looks like they're currently building a very similar team composition to the game we saw last time. I mean, we've only got one pick locked in, and Jarvan is a fairly common first pick these days, but that first pick does signal a few things. Does signal you want aggressive early lanes, does signal you generally want at least some kind of initiation on your team, because Jarvan is a very, very solid initiator. And indeed, here comes the Ashe pickup. Zyra having been taken away is going to weaken the potential for that full wombo combo, but there are a few other options available. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Nami.
Absolutely. Oh, Nami will be very strong, and Nami actually brings a little bit more initiation than the Zyra can. Whereas Zyra can follow up on the Ashe initiation probably better than any other character in game. It's if the Ashe arrow misses or if they use it in another engagement, then they still do have that Nami tidal wave that they can use to catch someone out at another point or just to layer over the team fight for a lot of crowd control over that team. And right now we have a control heavy team coming out with the Jarvan, the Nami, and the Ashe, which are the same, essentially the same three picks, just Zyra being replaced by Nami that we saw in that last game, and it worked out very, very well for them.
There is an argument to be made, however, that you shouldn't be running the same single team composition too often. If you signal exactly what your intentions are too clearly, can go wrong for you in the long run. However, it is a very, very strong one trick if this is your pony that you're going to be running with. However, against that Tristana, against that Zyra, and that Orianna counter engage, plus the Guardian Angel effect on Aatrox, it's not going to be as easy for them this time against that, against what they were against before.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh wow, we have the exact same team composition here.
Swapping out
Rumble.
Zyra for Nami.
Right. Oh yeah, of course. But I mean, that's not a very big difference there. We saw Dr. Snuggles have a very excellent game up top on that Rumble, as well as Cheese Beluga getting so many kills, uh, going 6-0, I think, before his first death. Unless I'm not sure how many times he did die that game.
I
Over
couldn't tell you.
on the purple team, we do have a Aatrox in the jungle, which up against the Jarvan actually fulfills a similar role in the early game. In the late game, he does transition to just a very strong, powerful auto attacker and can bring out a lot more damage than Jarvan can. His crowd control isn't quite as reliable as the Jarvan, but he still does have the gap closer and knockup. So he does bring a very similar early game potential to all of these lanes.
Plus, against a team comp like this, which is looking to take someone and just destroy them almost instantly with that Ashe arrow, makes them a big focus target. Aatrox is really, really good because he can afford to just jump in, face tank the arrow, face tank the burst because of that Guardian Angel effect on him. The revival passive will bring him back up. And it's already going to be difficult to kind of focus down anyone else on this team because Trist can always, so long as she notices the Ashe arrow, even like half a second before it hits her, she can use that W, she can get out, and everyone else is going to be just a little bit too difficult to burst down before they get off their important skills.
And Yeah, it will just. They do have a very good composition against the engage. I feel like here, especially with that Tristana pickup, just going to be so mobile as a carry. If Jarvan jumps in, if Kha'Zix jumps in, they have the option to knock them back out. And with Aatrox facing a little bit of that, as well as Renekton, just being able to form a solid front line, that could have been what they were lacking last game, was a solid enough front line to allow for the positioning of the Vayne. We now have a Tristana who has even better self-peel and might be able to escape from that. So we'll see how that faces up. They have a little bit more potential to team fight, to initiate, and to push turrets with that Tristana range and the excellent range of Orianna and Zyra that we might not see kind of the same just abuse of that team composition to force down every objective.
And I think a lot of this is going to hinge on how well Renekton does in that early game, because he can apply a lot of pressure split pushing. If he's able to do really, really well in that early game, he can force two people to come and deal with him, and he can just then look to roam, especially against a Rumble. If your only duelist to stop Renekton from pushing solo is a Rumble, he is a strong duelist, so he might be able to force Renekton away, but the thing is, he's not going to wave clear nearly as fast, and that means Renekton can just shove up to his tower, back away, and look to make something happen elsewhere, while Rumble is still stuck farming up those minions. We'll see how it works out in the long run, but is there anything else about these two teams that are kind of jumping out to you?
No, I definitely do think that Renekton is going to have a good time up in this top lane, though, since Rumble is, he does have the potential to get bursted down by the gap closer, by the hard CC out of Renekton, might be able to turn a little bit of that with the range on the Electro Harpoon and the Flame Spitter, but I'm going to be looking at Jarvan to potentially just keep this Rumble alive, possibly snowball the Kha'Zix like he did that last game. Probably not going to be many ganks in the spot lane, since we have some great, some great peel on both these supports, as well as a Tristana that can jump away. If there isn't a gank bot, I'm going to be looking at a at Pooty Spank to come in here on that Aatrox, and use it to capitalize on Ash's squishy early game, where Tristana has some good bursts. They might be able to get a kill or two in the bot there.
The interesting thing is going to be whether they choose to go for a 2v1 here, because it offers advantages and disadvantages to both teams right here. See, Tristana, in that early laning phase, yes, she's got some decent burst, but she's not particularly strong, and Zyra won't support her in that all-in until level 6 really all that well. Whereas Ashe and Nami are going to poke her down pretty hard in that straight-up 2v2 situation. Plus, Rumble is a strong 2v1 laner. So even if Trist and Zyra do end up in that 2v1, there's a lot of potential for gank setups where Jarvan gets Rumble with the classic double kill setup there. So it kind of means that they're in a very awkward situation in the early game as to which lanes they choose to run. Their sole strong lane in that kind of either bot or top is that Renekton. He's going to do well whatever they choose, but I feel almost it would be better for Dr. Snuggles and the rest of his team if they ran him in that 2v1 situation than going for a straight up 2v2.
Right, I can definitely see
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
the advantages of Renekton and Rumble don't necessarily have a hard time in a 1v2. Rumble probably has a little bit better of a time, and he won't have to face off against that Renekton. So I would definitely look for the lane swap here out of VEX. Now we have an invade here going on to the blue buff. They have spotted Tristana, but none of the Electro Harpoons have landed, and this has actually enabled CTG to get around and put wards in that red buff. They will be spotted out here, and we might actually see an engage. Porpoise Scream is running in hard. Grumpy Lol and Chronopes are stuck over there. The Agro Prison does land on the Pooty Spank, a lot of damage going down, but he is able to Dark Flight away.
Has forced him to skill up that Q first, which is probably not what he wanted, especially considering he started with that Doran's Blade. He's going to need a lot of help on his first buff, and that also means they know he's gone back. That means they know they're free to invade, to get vision wherever they want it right now.
Absolutely right now they're in a great position. They get the vision on both the blue and the red. Actually, might be falling back here, or they might be going for the direct invade. Ashe and Tristana have fallen down towards this bottom lane, so VEX will not be forcing the 1v2 lane swap.
Interesting choice, but well, I'm not sure I like it, but then again, I've never been perfect in these kinds of things.
Right. Then
Interesting
again,
thing
we're
to
not
note-
diamond players.
Interesting thing to note, though, this game, we've got Orianna versus Kha'Zix in the mid lane again, but this time what you'll notice is that GrumpyLol has taken the shield at level 1. This is actually one of the things you can do as Orianna against a melee mid laner, is you take that shield and you just walk past the minions to get a lot of harass down with the auto attacks in that early game, where your auto attacks are super dangerous. Pooty Spank finds the Porpoise Scoop.
Oh, they go into the fight here. Pooty Spank putting a lot of damage. Porpoise Scoop might force the passive out of here. The heal goes out on Pooty Spank though. Porpoise Scoop might turn around to pop the passive, but instead he just forces Porpoise Scoop out of his jungle in the mid lane. Cheese Beluga and GrumpyLol did find each other. Both pop the ignite. The flash and Q come out. It didn't do enough damage. One more auto attack will bring him down. The command attack brought him very low, but ultimately there won't be a kill either way. GrumpyLol does have a free lane right here to farm though, with Cheese Beluga sitting very, very low on health.
He is saying something in chat. He said, "What my?" I don't know exactly what that's supposed to mean, but maybe it makes sense if you were paying full attention to what was going on in their one-on-one fight they had. Regardless, though, Jarvan going to pick up this blue buff here and probably just head on back home. Should be able to just get that. That's pretty nice for him. He's actually he's going back. So that's actually pretty nice for him. Aatrox, his buffs are going to time out a lot sooner. Unless he's able to go for this red steel now, he's not going to be having an easy time making these ganks happen, and Jarvan might find him there.
He does have vision on this buff, whereas blue team does not, so Jarvan will not be there to see him go in. He actually just refreshes the ward, wants to wait to see Jarvan go for it. He might have had the time to actually get it down. His smite is available, but instead he's just going to retreat all the way back into his jungle and let Jarvan take that.
Well, he's not necessarily going to let him take it. He knows Jarvan has probably used his smite on that blue, so he knows he's got an advantage here. Even though it's level 2 to level 3, he'll hit level 3 if he gets the buff.
And he smites it away, gets the red buff, did not hit level 3
Didn't hit
since
level
he
3.
doesn't have those small creeps, but he now, each jungler has taken both a red and a blue buff. And now he's in a good position here in this mid lane against Cheese Beluga. Cheese Beluga does have the mana for a jump, but does not have the health to fight anyone, and Pooty Spank will get some free farm here.
Yeah, nice little bit of extra XP, extra farm for him, but Orianna was forced out of lane there by Kha'Zix, which is dangerous in the long term there for Orianna. She can't afford to fall too far behind Kha'Zix, or he's just going to start killing her every time he walks back into lane.
Alright, we do have a pretty even mid lane here. I think both mid laners just had to go back at different times, which was, or actually maybe this was probably the first time Kha'Zix went back. So he's doing a solid job, but they are even in farm right now, and we'll look to see mostly from the jungler presence which mid lane can pull ahead.
It's worth noting, actually, both of them have very, very low farm, though. Both Orianna and Kha'Zix are, well behind everybody else. For instance, in the top lane here, we've got 29 on Renekton to the 21 on that mid lane, and even that is a little bit low.
Down in the bot lane, we have Ashe with 39 here, up to Tristana's 26. Ashe is just completely dominating Stranger Awesome. Evan RL just pushing them back. The double range here, able to just take them out with their pretty strong crowd control from the Nami E, from the Nami Aqua Prison, and from the Ashe Volley. And it's actually surprising since Tristana does have a pretty good early game with that explosive shot and that rocket jump, but she is falling pretty far behind.
The problem is she has to contend with that extra auto attack range from Ashe. That's huge in that AD carry versus AD carry trade. That's why Caitlyn is so strong, because she has 50 more range even than Ashe. But having that 50 range advantage is big. Plus the volley is really, really strong. And Tristana, if she wants to access all of her early game power, she has to go all in.
Right, and we're also seeing that explosive shot actually makes it very difficult for Tristana to farm on turret.
Cheese
Because,
Beluga.
we had Aatrox in the mid lane getting first blood onto the Kha'Zix, which is actually very surprising to see the Orianna being the winner of that matchup, and this will actually prove very good for her. It'll make it hard for Kha'Zix to get a kill on this in the future. Rumble has come down for the roam, but won't get anything.
Renekton is there as well, though. Kind of just saying hi and then going back to farm their lanes, respectively. Aatrox is starting to circle around, though. Ashe has to be very careful. They are aware of this gank. Tristana and Zyra need to follow it up. This is interesting, though. They haven't... Maybe they aren't aware of it.
They're
They were just backing off.
expecting it, but they aren't aware of it. And so they aren't pushing out the lane as hard as they have been in the past. And we do have Zyra moving in. Let's see if she can land the root. The knockup goes onto Division. The root does not land, though. There is the explosive shot. The Aqua Prison takes out Chronopes from the fight, but ultimately there was not a lot of damage going back either way. An unsuccessful gank does pop the Nami flash, though, which is going to be the best thing they can hope for.
Yeah, plus he's going to be in position to take away this blue buff. However, Jarvan is coming into this bot lane, and he's got good timing on this. Nami and Ashe going to hit 6 relatively soon. In fact, he's just going in ham.
Right, Division does not land the Aqua Prison, though, and the Porpoise Scoop won't see anything for his presence down here. Does allow Aatrox to possibly take away those jungle buffs. Porpoise Scoop did start up there at the red buff, which is up. We do see Aatrox moving here to get handed over to Grumpy Lowell. And Porpoise Scoop might come in for the steal. He doesn't have vision.
No, he does not. Flag will not land. Sensible to pull it out there by Pretty Spank. But Knives Millions getting a little bit of an advantage in this top lane now. 58 CS to 45. Seeker's Arm Guard, Nadorn's Shield on Rumble. What this means is that he is now starting to get ahead. When Renekton gets ahead, it gets really, really ugly really, really fast because he can just start winning those trades, and it's hard for you to avoid trading damage with him. Plus, he is going to be able to slice and dice in, slice and dice out, and that is really good at messing with the way that Rumble needs to put out his damage. He's very dependent on you kind of standing still and taking it to the face, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't have the escapes to get away from that Renekton slice and dice. And with the double Dorans and the longsword, he definitely will be able to abuse that lane. He does not have a teleport, so he won't be able to make as much of a presence in other lanes with that advantage. But if he can get a kill on Rumble or push down a turret early, that will definitely open up a lot of the map here for CTG.
So, well, we'll see what he's able to do in that top lane. It actually looks kind of like... Okay, no, he's just being careful about making sure he's got wards down.
Ashe is maintaining this CS advantage down bot, a 23 CS lead. We're seeing Tristana have a very difficult time, has grabbed the Bilgewater Cutlass, going for that Blade of the Ruined King. But Ashe already on a BF sword, most likely going for an Infinity Edge. Will hit those items a bit faster, and an Infinity Edge Ashe is going to be very scary with those slows coming out and with that control that we see here from the EX.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that Trist will get stronger in this lane the longer it goes on. And actually, Aatrox committing at top. They may be trading a tower here, I suspect. Rumble has gone down, so
The blue
Dragon
team,
is going to be
meanwhile,
gone.
has gone for the Dragon. Stranger or Awesome and Chronopes are around here. Might try to go for the steal. The Ashe Arrow lands on the Stranger Awesome. The Command Shockwave takes out Division and Evan RL very low. The Orianna comes in for the kill on Evan RL. Division falls soon after to Chronopes plant. And then the flash in from Aatrox onto Porpoise Scoop brings us a 3-0 in exchange for Dragon. If they can take an objective out of this, then it'll be very worth it. They have 3 members of their team down bot against Cheese Beluga, who's backing. This might relieve a lot of the pressure that we've seen down here on Stranger Awesome.
Honestly, it was already worth it because Knives Millions in this top lane is going to take the top tower soon, and he certainly was able to deny a lot of farm to Rumble. 56 versus 85 now, and they're going to take the spot tower. That was essentially a really good fight, though. They just played it better because they got nicely positioned Tristana, knocking Ashe back into the shockwave from Orianna, and they just won basically really, really hard in terms of just straight up mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely. The 3 kills ended up being pretty much enough gold to make up for the Dragon, along with the turret. It's going to put them ahead now. They're at a 2,500 gold advantage, and although they don't have the hard engage comp, they do have quite a lot of teamfight potential, like we just saw with the with these with the tangling root. I can't even remember what Stranglethorns. There we go, as well as the command shockwave from Orianna.
Yeah, so they actually have a really good skirmish. You know, if they can land, say, those two things together, that's a lot of CC. We actually now have Kha'Zix going for the gank, but he's walking right into it.
Oh, and we have the knockup from Aatrox going down. The equalizer is going to fall onto both of them, and Knives Millions will pick up the kill, throws the ultimate, wants to lock up Snuggles, but it's not going to happen. They will get this turret out of here soon. There's no way Dr. Snuggles is going to defend this, and Knives Millions is just going to let minions take this as they move down in here into the enemy jungle.
Yeah, Dr. Snuggles being forced back again, losing farm again. It's not an easy matchup, and Renekton is going to be able to apply a lot of pressure as a result of that. He's going to just back out for now, look to go and buy, but he's scary, and that's going to mean that even more towers are going to start falling.
The command shockwave goes onto Porpoise Scoop. The knockup from Booty Spike does not land, but it does not matter as he pops the ultimate, chunks him down, and takes the third turret of the game. Every outer turret is down here for CTG, and they are quickly advancing to a position of power.
Yeah, they're taking a lot of momentum right now. If they can get this extra tower on top of that, that's going to equal a big gold
The arrow
advantage.
comes out, but Booty Spank just jumps away with the Dark Flight. We have the rocket jump coming out from Stranger Awesome as well. And nothing comes out of the Ash Arrow. It does keep them off the turret, which is kind of the best that they can hope for right now.
Yeah, it just feels at the moment like EXG are having a lot of trouble getting anything done, because you can see, again, Renekton drawing Rumble to that top lane. He's going to spend a long time pushing out that farm. He's now free to go and do whatever he wants, although at the moment there's not a lot for him to do, so he's just going to go and do golems. And then they're free to force these fights whenever they want. They're pushing them back, and the hard initiate comp really only works brilliantly when you're sort of kind of the ones pushing the enemy back. As it is, they're on the back foot, they're off balance, and they're just kind of continuing to lose ground every time they get hit.
Right, and we see Orianna definitely building to counter that hard initiate comp. Has a Seeker's Arm Guard to eventually go for the Zhonya's Hourglass. Is going to get that Athene's Unholy Grail to give her the utility to stay in the back of the fight. And Kha'Zix has a lot of longswords, but doesn't even have a Brutalizer, doesn't have a Hex Drinker. Is going to have a very rough time here against Grumpy Lowell in the mid lane.
Yeah, level 11 versus level 9, very significant difference. That's just looking bad across the board. Knives Millions heading down there. They know there's vision on that.
And Knives Millions is just going to, and Grumpy Lowell are going to keep Kha'Zix off the blue buff for now. They might actually grab it for themselves. We do have Dr. Snuggles coming up near here, but they might not get here in time. This could be a blue buff steal, which will just put CTG actually goes in. Knives Millions popping the ult and the ignite, is able to take down Porpoise Scoop. He will go down himself. Grumpy Lowell decides to back out of there, and that will be a 1-for-1 exchange in favor though for VEX there.
Yeah, that was a really good equalizer there. Completely zoned Orianna out, and Renekton was forced to make a decision, a very snap decision, as to whether to go further in or to back out. As it happened, he went further in, got one kill, but I don't think it was worth it for him. And that does mean they've lost a little bit of that momentum.
He did give up the first kill of the game there over to VEX. The game is 1-8 now. They are 5,000 gold ahead here on CTG on our purple side. And let's see how well they can snowball this. Booty Spank may jump over the wall for the knockup on Evan RL. The rocket jump goes in, does not take pull turret aggro, and will be able to jump out. The arrow landing on Chronobes, and the knockup, she flashes out, but it's not enough. The tidal wave knocking up Booty Spank. He's going to try to lifesteal through this, but he can't quite. His resurrection passive is going off, but he's going to fall shortly after. Meanwhile, we did have Grumpy Lowell taking out Cheese Beluga in the mid lane, which will give them some solace in that overall lost exchange. Dr. Snuggles is moving in, lands the Electro Harpoon. Porpoise Scoop is here trying to get the slow, takes it with one last auto attack, and that is 3 kills for 1 over for VEX, which is kind of the play that they needed there. Very unfortunate series of events. We now see VEX actually moving around this dragon. They're going to poke down on it. They don't have their AD carry nor their mid laner. And with Jasana coming in, this could actually be a dangerous position. Zyra does have her Stranglethorns, They might look for the fight after this. The equalizer goes down just to keep Stranger Awesome out of there. They do get the dragon, but not before Porpoise Scoop goes down to Tristana, giving her over the blue buff. The evasion flashes over the wall. The Stranglethorns goes over. The flash and the jump fail over the wall. Devasion might get out of this alive, but Pooty Spank and Knives Millions jump over this wall. They're now very low, though. Knives Millions does have his ult active, but it's not going to be enough to keep him alive. GZ Pooty Spank now falling. Chronops is the only one alive. Actually, no, we have Stranger Awesome just pegging away at minions. Failed the jump and the flash over the wall, was not able to join that fight, and a 2 for 2 with Dragon puts that in VEX's favor. It is pretty interesting to see the Dragon fall twice to VEX despite the advantage, but Stranger Awesome jumps on to Evan RL, puts down quite a bit of damage with the explosive shot, but isn't able to clinch out the kill. We now have 2 members of this team pushing on the turret, but Dr. Snuggles and Porpoise Scoop here to defend. There is no equalizer available, and the knockback from Tristana will try to keep Porpoise Scoop out of here. She's trying to kite around. The equalizer now comes down, puts out the damage, and seals Stranger Awesome's fate. They've now brought this to a 7 and 11 kill differential. Only 2,500 gold separating the teams, and VEX is doing a great job here. I will attempt to locate my co-caster, who might have muted his microphone. Or we might have lost the conversation. Spuddington, do I have you? Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I will do my best to call him back. And while I do that, I will just continue to talk about this game. We have a pretty strong comeback here from VEX. Like I said, bringing back that gold difference, and let's see how exactly they manage that over the course of the game. We are heading into 20 minutes where that gold won't mean a lot. It means a lot more what these teams decide to build, how they set the position, and where they engage. But now Dr. Snuggles might be in a bad position with Pooty Spank moving down here. Might be able to get the knock up. Dr. Snuggles decides to turn on Chronops, puts a lot of damage down, but gets knocked back into the Stranglethorns, and he will fall down very quickly. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, we have 4 members of the team going onto Orianna. They will be able to push down this turret. Knives Millions is pushing in the top lane, might be able to answer for an inner turret of his own.
So hello, by the way.
Hi, Spuddington, welcome back.
Was that your internet, my internet, servers, Skype?
I don't know, I just didn't hear you for a while, so I went ahead and called you back. But, I don't know, Skype is the most reliable, but luckily we have Spuddington back with us. And we have seen a great comeback from VEX. They did lose a turret on the top lane, which is not what they needed there, but they did gain a turret for themselves, as well as losing a shutdown onto Stranger Awesome. So the gold difference did jump up by about 600 there. Not what VEX needs, but not too much to come back from.
Yeah, seems like they should be good to win team fights if they can get them. But the problem is going to be their lack of map control may lead to them just straight up getting outmaneuvered. However, Nami is doing a good job right now getting control back in their own jungle, clearing out the wards with that oracles, putting down her own to make sure they've got all the entrances covered, clear the areas with the buffs. So yeah, they will have to play a little bit defensive for a very short amount of time, but they're good now to try and force fights. You can see actually Nami checking brushes with the bubble before she goes in because she just doesn't know, but she knows she needs to get that vision out there anyway.
So doing a good job picking up that oracles. Does not have any wards down here to clear, actually. CTG does not have a lot of wards down. Chronops will likely be coming through to place those now. But honestly, up until this point for CTG, it seemed like they got an advantage and then almost started to play like solo queue. They just started pushing on their own, making fights on their own, and weren't playing as a team. The Asher coming on to Chronops, the knock-up landing. This will be a kill for Dr. Snuggles. A great pickup by Chronops, just being alone in the enemy jungle.
Yeah, and that's something you cannot afford to do at this stage, especially in a competitive environment, and doubly especially if you're up against an Ashe, because, you know, Ashe Arrow from nowhere. There wasn't anywhere she could run. She ran into a corridor there, at which point she was doomed. I also don't like the fact that Zyra has not yet gone for mobility boots. She may never go for mobility boots. Some people don't on Zyra. They like to go for Sork shoes, but I really, really like mobility boots because it means you can afford to go a little bit more aggressive when you're looking to get your wards down, because otherwise you can just be chased down in a straight up kind of running match.
And that positioning you can get from the movement speed on your Stranglethorns, on your Grasping Roots, can mean the difference in a team fight. So we might see her going from that. She's generating quite a bit of gold from her double GP5. Meanwhile, Nami, sitting on only a Ruby Sightstone, doesn't have a lot of gold income now to buy wards beyond that Sightstone, which kind of puts her in a rough position.
However, it's partly due to her self-sacrificial choices here that they're still in this game, because they had better vision control earlier on, and while from now on, Zyra is probably going to be able to buy as many wards as she wants and will be rolling in gold, and will eventually also start to get some damage on her. Nami kind of kept her team in the game right at this point, so although she's going to be trapped in the ward sink, she doesn't really need that much gold to be effective. Nami is very much a kind of gold-independent character.
Absolutely, whereas Zyra can build AP and almost needs it to stay relevant as a support, since Nami does bring with her a little bit more crowd control, a little bit more help to her team. She can just continue to throw those abilities on her team fights and on her enemies. And we might see that right now with the tidal wave rolling through. The Ash Arrow misses, but Pooty Spank falling very low here. Grumpy Lol on Orianna falls very low. The Shockwave only hits one. Now Kha'Zix has moved up on the Stranger Awesome. Pooty Spank's passive has been pot. And Knives Millions is standing here tanking through a lot. But it looks like a VEX comeback. They've taken down every member of the enemy team. A quadra kill for Cheese Beluga.
That is the terrifying cleanup and the hard engage. They can't afford to fight 5-on-5 like that. They just do not have a team comp for it at this stage. Later on, maybe they'll be able to rely on Tristana kiting it out, but she's not strong enough yet, especially considering she's gone Blade of the Ruined King Phantom Dancer, which I really don't like on Trist.
Right, the Phantom Dancer just gives her a lot of what feels like unnecessary move speed. A much more preferential build might have either been a Blade of the Ruined King or Phantom Dancer for the attack speed into an Infinity Edge to really allow her to do damage in the late game, because right now we have an Ashe with an Infinity Edge and a Static Shiv going to be putting out a lot of AoE damage and a lot of crits on auto attacks. Even missing the Ashe Arrow, which we saw right there, didn't hit anyone. They were still able to clinch a very conclusive teamfight victory, 5-0 ace. The pause is coming out. Do you have information in the chat as to the status?
I do not. Lag 1 sec, actually, I have. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, and I am not a pro player, I will say that over and over again, but from my perspective, Tristana with Blade of the Ruined King Phantom Dancer and her rapid fire, getting now to rank 4, is just not going to have enough damage to shred through anyone with a decent amount of armor. And now she's also putting herself into an itemization hole because she doesn't know, what does she build next? Does she build Last Whisper next? Well, okay, she could do that, but she's still going to be in this situation where she has very low base AD, which means her crits are not going to be hitting for that much, even if she's critting a lot and hitting a lot. The way the stats work, you need good base AD to make your crits worth a damn, and that is problematic if you're then forced to choose between Last Whisper and Infinity Edge.
Right, that's actually the position she's in right now, because if she goes for the Infinity Edge at this point, she will have the armor over there on the Jarvan, on the Rumble, on actually not a ton of armor right now, so she does have the ability to, but a Last Whisper at this point would be great just to cut through base armors, and she might not have the damage for her team. Renekton is actually building a lot of AD, is close to Sunfire Cape, but already has a Ravenous Hydra to him, and he might be able to make up for where Tristana is lacking right now. We did see him survive a long time in that last fight, which was surprising since he is building a little bit aggressively with that Brutalizer and the Ravenous Hydra. But after he gets to Sunfire Cape, he might be the front line his team needs.
It's going to be difficult, though. They've just put themselves in a really nasty trap because Trist is not going to scale up into that late game. And
the Ashe Arrow comes on. Aatrox is blown up. The Command Shockwave hits most members of the enemy team, but not Cheese Beluga, who picks up a double kill there. After the quadra kill in the last fight, he's sitting up 7-3, doing a very excellent job on this Kha'Zix 2 games in a row. And this team comp is just working here for VEX. They are now pushing onto the inhibitor turret. Only 3 members alive. The Grasping Roots is still available, as well as the Renekton Dominus. but he is not going to find an opportunity to go in there. Oh, the jump from Kha'Zix lands onto Shoshana. He gets the reset, goes onto Zyra and hits the missile out of there, picking up another kill for his team and an inhibitor. 18-2, only 4,000 gold up, but they grab an inhibitor, and this puts them in a very, very good position. As when we saw earlier, I think about a 5 or 6,000 gold disadvantage to VEX. To bring that up here to a 3,500 is solid for them. They're going to clear out this Baron and then transition up towards the top lane. If they decide to go for the Baron, which they might actually here, this could be dangerous with Renekton moving in. I might have lost the call again with my co-caster, so until that happens, I will try to bring you all the action. The knockup goes on Nice Millions and the Nami Tidal Wave. The Shockwave went down right on Renekton's head. I don't know if that actually hit anyone. GZ Pooty Spank dies again on Aatrox. The arrow hits Grumpy Lol, the knockup and the equalizer going down, and Grumpy Lol is going to fall there. We now have Stranger Awesome and Kronos moving in. Stranger Awesome in a bad position, misses the jump over the wall, and falls down to Evan RL. This will be a free Baron here for VEX. Knives Millions may respond with an inner turret in the bot lane, but at this point in the game, the inner turrets don't mean nearly as much as the inhibitors and as the Barons do, and this is going to be a huge advantage. The surrender vote coming out from CTG, and good game to VEX, who are the winners of the NESL Go4LoL number 129.